you sent me a quote I hadn't seen from Mikal Bridges, basically just saying like we're not trying very hard, like really kind of an implication of Jacque Vaughn. So maybe in that sense this isn't a surprise. I guess my thought here is, what is this solving? Like, why couldn't you do this in a couple months? Even if you were a Brooklyn Nets optimist, them being where they are, like on the fringe of the play-in tournament in the East and just like kind of an ant team, even if you were an optimist, this is within the reasonable range of outcomes for this Brooklyn Nets team to me. So what is this solving? What is this actually helping you accomplish right now by firing a guy who seemed just solid? Maybe not a top 10 coach, but a solid coach. What problem are you solving by doing this now?
You're not solving any problem. They're not going to improve because of this. They got swept in the playoffs last year. They rode, a really impressive stretch of basketball from Mikal Bridges and some, momentum coming off even after they broke down their team at the deadline last year to a higher seed than maybe we thought they would fall to after Kyrie and KD left. But the Nets, I've been saying this all year. I think I've brought up various times throughout the season with, Nets fans turning on Mikal, and that's why I've emphasized so much that as we did our preview show about the Nets with Lucas Kaplan, and even last year heading into the playoffs, I think I've been pretty consistent. To me, Mikal Bridges is a number 3 on a championship team. Mm-hmm. And that sounds like hating or just like making a random point to be right or something, but it matters. It matters in the way you evaluate your team. It matters in the way you evaluate your coach. And the Brooklyn Nets, to me, fundamentally are a team built around guys being asked to do significantly more than they should ever have to do. And not just in terms of a 1, 2, 3, Batman, Robin, whatever. Nick Claxton showed us last year, right? Best season of his career. A lot of space, playmakers to give him the ball on offense, and a secondary rim protector to maximize what he's great at as a defender. Kevin Durant had an amazing defensive season next to Claxton last year. That allowed Claxton to switch more. That allowed Claxton to be mobile and use his athleticism and length to be a disruptor and not always have to be the only guy who can protect the rim. Nick Claxton's been nowhere close to his previous levels this season. Mikal Bridges, like I just said, without a point guard, without Chris Paul or whatever it was, and not being a consistent enough creator. Well, now he looks a lot worse. Mikal Bridges is the same quality of player. You could even make the argument he's gotten better. It just doesn't feel that way. And Shams Charania today, Chris, I know you said you were logging on and everything and running some errands this morning. He had a quote go around that there was frustration from Dinwiddie, who's gone, and Bridges, that the offense had been built around Ben Simmons from a schematic standpoint, and that was their emphasis. And it's like, maybe that's on Jacque Vaughn. But a lot of this, I just look at the TBD, it could go either way with these insiders. But I just look at the roster and I'm like, what the hell was supposed to happen here?
I'm with you. This is the Brooklyn, like this is what they were always going to be, barring a star trade, barring something just playing above their head and having a hot run. Like this is just kind of what they are. If you look at the numbers, they're 21st in net rating, they're 19th in offense, they're 18th in defense. Now, if you want to say they're underperforming, there is a statistical argument for that. They're 26th in terms of like what their wins should be versus their net rating. That still wouldn't make them a good team, but if you added 3 more wins to this team and they're 24-30 and they're closer to Chicago, that's better than where they're at, or like they're on par with like Atlanta at that point instead of a couple games behind Atlanta in the play-in race. Maybe there's some validity there, but that's also again just within the range of outcomes. And this team is just in a spot where, Brendon, I think a lot is hard for them because the roster just isn't there yet. Like they don't have a point guard. The Dinwiddie stuff, I think the way his even trade got reported, I think revealed there was some strife with going on in there. So like this just feels like a team that is going to need to make some aggressive changes in the summer. Like it feels like a team that's going to got to start moving in a different direction and beyond just keep running this back. And also I wonder too, is this also like a front office change? Is this like a Sean Marks trying to save his job situation, and Bob Myers is waiting in the wings maybe to be that guy? Like, is there something bold that we're not seeing, bigger picture within the structure of this organization kind of coming here as well if things don't improve?
I was getting into this debate with Shamit Dua, who we brought on for the Pelicans preview in the fall, and he was saying that the Nets don't have a vision, that they're not really building in any real sense towards something. I think I would disagree with that because they want to pivot from the Durant-Kyrie era, Harden, if you want to include his sojourn for less than a year.
Sojourn. Oh, a word we should use more is sojourn. I'm just going to say. That's a good word.
They want to pivot from that to star player core 2.0. It's taking longer than they probably hoped. I think you could take some issue with like, hey, did you need to hang on to Dorian Finney-Smith? You know? You couldn't have gotten some assets back for that guy. Was he really doing much for you? You know, you get like 2 second-round picks and Keita Bates-Diop for Royce O'Neal. We don't really know what you're going to do with Nick Claxton, and I do think there's a reasonable question to be asked about, is paying him the smartest thing in the world given where you are right now? But if they're able to, and I think they need to, make that trade this offseason, we don't have those questions anymore. You know, if they get Donovan Mitchell in July, I think we understand perfectly what their vision is. Their vision is a great team built around Donovan Mitchell all of a sudden. It's just right now we're in this in-between phase, but I tend to think Sean Marks is pretty decent at his job. But I also think, based on how we saw things play out with the Durant and Kyrie situation, Joe Tsai runs this franchise.
Yeah.
So it's really up to him, and at that point, it's not to say it doesn't matter who runs the front office. I think they've had some pretty good player development successes and things like that, but it's about his patience. And if the plan is execute another star trade in the next X months and Marks doesn't do that, I absolutely think he could be fired. But until they have a roster that has a direction, and that direction has to be up because they don't have their own picks, it's just this is where you were left when really, you know, Kyrie didn't want to take the shot. I mean, it's just we're still in the aftermath of that, and that sucks, but I don't know what you could really do to fix it, and expecting this team to win just because you want it to wasn't really going to work out.
Yeah, I think, too, the only thing I would push back on as far as like them just a star and then this is clear is the roster also around them, like, it doesn't quite make sense in the way I think you'd want it to for a star to fully come in and it just be clean. Like, yes, Mikal Bridges, Claxton, I think, can be that kind of guy, but there's other work to do, and I think that is harder just based on their pick situation. Like, even if they have some other assets they can play with, I do
what
think
do
it's
they
just...
need that they don't have on the roster right now that would be tailor-made for Donovan, or if they had gotten Dame or whoever it is this summer to come in?
I think another guard who's just like quite decent would be good. Like I think that's part of it, and I mean to your point, maybe keeping Dorian Finney-Smith is just trying to say like, hey, like we this is the kind of guy we want when we make a star trade. So like, why should we trade him? Like I could see that argument, even if I value-wise there's a little bit of goofiness there. But I think, I mean, and frankly, I also just think figuring out what the F is going on with Ben Simmons is just also like a big part of this.
What's going on is they're waiting out his contract until they cut him, or use him in a trade like that. He's expiring after this year, so you know. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. They have Dennis Schroeder now. I don't think he's elite, but it's probably a little more stable than Dinwiddie. I think some of those guys can come around. You know, what does Cam Thomas look like on a team that has real structure and is trying to win? Can he be a sixth man who really gets buckets and makes a difference? I don't know what that kind of player is in today's NBA, but maybe that improves and doesn't look so random the way that it can right now with him. But yeah, they're not going to be the title contender the minute they acquire a player like that. But I think that has to be their goal, because again, you know, they're sitting 8th in the lottery right now, and Houston's going to get that pick. So it's tough and not a really easy call to just say tear it down. Like they already did under Sean Marks once. The pain of tear it down and know you're not getting your pick is a really tough pill to swallow.